Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, which is Group Health to Medicare Marketing. I am Christy Wilbert, Vice President of Medicare Offerings here at URL Insurance Group, and I'm going to be your host today. And I brought along with me two familiar faces, at least they should be. One, you should see Thomas Purcell. He handles all of our group health referrals from our agent partners. So share a lot of his real life experience with you today and some selling techniques. And then we have Elise Fry. She manages all the agent support side of things for the group health for all of our agents. So she is going to share her expertise on some of the tricky things that come up often when we have people transitioning from group health to Medicare. So our goal for today is to inform you on the benefits of encouraging Medicare eligibles to come off of the group health plan, how to incorporate that into your sales presentations, and educate you on a few of the ins and outs that often arise when that occurs, and also provide you some marketing information and ideas. Before we get started, in case there's anybody here with us today that does not work with URL currently, I just wanted to take a moment and explain the benefits of working with URL. Here you're going to see our logo, which does represent a heart of three sections, which is you, your clients, and us here at URL. And it just reminds us that at the end of the day, our passion and our purpose in the industry is to make sure you and your clients feel better, safe, and protected by the products and services that we provide. Our slogan is that we're in the people business because the people here and our relationship building is really makes us special. All right, and right now I really quickly want to take a poll. And in order for you to see the poll, there should be a blue chat box on the bottom right of your screen. So if you will click on that, please, it will pop up a box showing a chat, a question and answer, handouts, and the polls. And you will need to reference all of those things today. Please feel free to keep this interactive, put chats in there. The chat is available for everybody to see that's on the webinar today. Hopefully we get some good questions that we can answer for you. And the handouts that we'll be referencing are there for you to download as well. But the poll is, what line of business do you focus on? So we're curious, out of everybody that's on here today, what do you focus on? Do you focus on Medicare? Do you focus on group health insurance? Are you actively cross-selling both and you're just here for maybe some marketing ideas? Or do you want to learn more about how to cross-sell into these markets and that's why you're here today? Okay, so majority so far is group health. I'm just going to keep that up for one more moment, and we're going to go on to our next slide and have Thomas start us out with some group health basics.
Thanks, Christy, and good morning, everyone. So group health benefits. Just to give you a really high overview of the fundamentals of the basic group benefits, the plans, typically there's an employer-employee contribution arrangement. So both the employer and the employee have to have some skin in the game when it comes to who's paying for premiums, and typically both are going to contribute a portion of that. Generally speaking, most of the plans are going to have high deductibles. There's a lot of HSA qualified plans that have higher deductible options as well. And then there's the traditional PPO, HMO type plans that have copays for those everyday type procedures, such as, primary care visits, prescriptions, urgent care, complex imaging, things like that. Oh, you're muted.
I forgot. I forgot I muted myself. So with those group health benefits, there are huge benefits to the employer and to the employee for the seniors coming off the group. And that's why we're here today. Okay. So with Medicare, the employer will pay less. The employee will pay less in most cases, unless you have a circumstance where the employer is paying 100% of the benefits, which we still do see sometimes, but not often. Okay, usually there's like a 50-50 contribution, or however the group is set up. But possible lower monthly premium, and then lower deductible, which is usually 100% of the time, because Medicare doesn't have deductibles, no matter if you're on a MedSup or a Medicare Advantage plan, and then lower co-payments. So we do have a little example here to show you, which I think seeing the numbers raw like that will be very helpful. And just to go back to our poll that I put out earlier, it looks like a huge percentage of you are doing group. So thank you so much for joining us today. And it looks like you want to learn more about cross-selling. So I hope this is very helpful for you. What you're seeing there in the first column for the group health comparison is what a normal person that's maybe 65 would cost in full. So this is the employer and the employee contribution. And as I said earlier, they could be doing a split. So let's just assume the employer's paying $500 a month, or maybe even more. Maybe the employer's paying $800 towards this person a month, and the employee's picking up, $400 of it, $200 each paycheck for that month, for that plan. So you can see how that would be a huge cost saving to the employer and to the employee, because neither are contributing if they come off of the group health plan. And the alternative would be a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan, which most Medicare Advantage plans now are $0. You can get a great $0 PPO. I'm not going to go into details about Medicare. That's not the purpose of today. But definitely call me if you want more information there. A Medicare supplement, where you can go anywhere. There's no networks with a Medicare supplement. They're a pay in the beginning of the month. Anything you have is covered except for your Part B deductible, which is an annual deductible, which is the $226. So as you can see, your deductible is $226 on a MedSup as compared to maybe a $2,000 deductible on the group health plan. If you're the employee paying $200 a paycheck, again, this is just an example, you are now just paying $100 a month. So you're saving $300 a month on a MedSup. You have no networks, you don't have anything to worry about there. And a lot of them offer wellness programs. So you're still going to have maybe a vision and dental discount. You're still going to get your Blue 365. We all know who we're talking about there. And then on the Medicare Advantage side, again, that's $0. So you have no monthly payment. So if you were paying that $400 a month on group health, it's nothing. It's going to cost you nothing every month. There's no deductible on the Medicare Advantage side. There is sometimes on your prescription plan, but again, we can get into those details another time. Wellness is always included in Medicare Advantage. So you're talking dental, vision, hearing, gym membership. It's, the Mac Daddy of plans, everything that they can possibly throw in those. Some even have over-the-counter cards now where you can buy things from pharmacies online through catalogs and all kinds of good stuff. And there are networks, just as there are with group health. Many of them now are nationwide, so you don't run into any issues as long as you have the PPO plans. So that's just a little example of why we're talking about what we are today, because it is a huge cost savings for everybody. And if you're not talking about it, you're really doing everybody a disservice, because it just adds trust with your group health, HR person or owner of the business that you're working with, if you're informing them on all the ways that they could be saving money and helping the employees. So a huge question that we all get, Thomas sees it, Elise sees it, I see it, is how can the employer, if they're now saving, let's just go back to that example, $800 a month, how can they still help the employee? Because you're not allowed to encourage it, but we can educate, right? We can educate the employee how they're going to be saving money to go on to Medicare. the big question is, can I pay for it if I'm the employer? Now that I'm saving that $800, can I somehow give it to the employee? Can I put it into their payroll? Can I pay it under the table? Can I don't know. We get the crazy questions. The answer is no, they cannot. There is one compliant way to do it, and that's to set up a Section 105, which is a health reimbursement arrangement plan. And that is something that the employee sets up in writing and puts into account. You can either do it on a monthly basis or an annual basis. And as the employee pays their premiums, they can submit their receipts for reimbursement. So there's a ton of ways to do that. That's an FSA, that's an HRA. The negative to that is there is some admin that has to be done there. But again, you're still saving money. So you can outsource the admin or you can do it in-house, depending on the size of your business.
Christy, yeah, if I could just add there, that's a great point with this Section 105 plan. And in terms of the strategy, from an agent perspective or from an employer perspective, let's go back to that example you've been using. An employer could save $800 a month in that 65-year-old employee's age banded rate. Well, if an employer, you're correct in saying, with an HRA arrangement, a Section 105 plan, there's going to be some small admin fees if they were to outsource it. We have solutions there that I'd be happy to talk about, and more than one, depending on the specific circumstance of the group. But if the employer's saving $800 a month in premium, they could still contribute that $226 a month towards the employee's Medicare deductible and admin fees, and still be netting well over $500,000 a month in premiums that they could be using towards other benefits. So it's really a solid way to move an employee to most of the time a better plan, save the employer money, and then, like you said, make it a better experience for the employee. So this arrangement is a very popular and compliant way to have a win for the employer and employee.
Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, and obviously there are a lot of benefits to the Section 105 as well. The cost savings for the employer is an obvious one because they have control over the allowance. They set that amount that they're going to contribute. It's not willy-nilly. So that is easy to budget. And then the tax advantages. So they don't have to pay tax on any of the reimbursed expenses, which is great.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, if you're comparing that employee situation where they're on that group plan, they're going to have a lot of regardless of if it's a qualified plan or a PPO arrangement, they're going to have copays or huge out-of-pocket expenses in most cases, regardless of if it's a copay or a deductible. And with that Section 105 plan, the employer can use their money to make more of an impact on the employee. Because right before, we're just contributing to premiums, and that employee still has huge out-of-pocket exposure. Well, let's make that dollar mean more to the employee. And instead of trying to contribute it towards the premiums, we can reallocate that money towards, dollars that they can use for out-of-pocket medical expenses, which is huge.
Thank you, Thomas. Okay, we're going to move on to health savings account because this is a huge one. Obviously, there are a lot of benefits to owning an HSA. Even at our age, because you contribute to it tax-free out of your payroll. It's kind of, no thought there. It kind of works like a savings account. You're putting money in, it's tax-free. It's building interest. There's no tax on that interest. Okay. And then you actually have the opportunity to move it to mutual fund if you don't spend it all. So it is a huge way to save money in a better way than saving it at a bank, because at a bank, everything's taxed. So a health savings account can be built really large over a long employed, career. So people get very scared at the end of it of how does it end? How is it going to work? All of those things. So we get those questions. Before you approach 65, 6 months prior to, you have to stop contributing if you plan to go on to Medicare. If you do continue to contribute once you're enrolled on Medicare, and now that's A or B. So at 65, a lot of people get automatically enrolled into Medicare, and they'll get a card in the mail that says Part B effective date. Or Part A, I'm sorry. Part A is always first because it's typically free if you've worked for 10 years. So you actually have to check that I want to disenroll on that card and mail it back to Social Security if you plan to continue to contribute to your HSA. If you don't do that, you will be tax penalized for any money that you continue to contribute past those times that you're enrolled in Medicare. So disenroll if you're going to continue to work and be on the group health plan, and so you can contribute. If you want to go on to Medicare, you just, just stop contributing, go on Medicare, and everything's fine. Can you use the HSA money to pay for Medicare? Yes, absolutely. That is your money. It is made for health. Any health reimbursement benefits you can use this for. You can use it for premiums. You can use it for co-payments. You can use it for deductibles, all kinds of things. And again, once you turn 65, that money is actually available to you to take out for anything, not just health-related services. Just know that you will be taxed on it when you take it out for anything that's not health-related.
Just something else to add there, Christy, just a reminder, I know we have a lot of group health agents on the webinar today, but with the HSAs, if it's being offered on a group chassis where the employer is offering an HSA qualified plan, and that, employees have that catch-up contribution, if you're all aware, where an employee 55 or older can contribute an extra $1,000 over the typical contribution max limits for an HSA qualified plan. So that's something, again, going back to Christy's point on kind of stockpiling an account with funds for future medical expenses. This is the way to do that for sure. I'm a huge fan of HSA qualified plans. I could talk on a webinar all day about HSAs, but I'll save that for another one.
Thanks, Thomas. Also, just as a reminder, the 2023 annual limit for individuals is $3,850 for their HSA account and $7,750 for family. So that would be anything outside of a single husband, wife, parent, child. They categorize that as a family coverage. So hi, everybody. My computer stopped working, by the way, so that's why I'm here as Christy. So I'm going to go over the primary and secondary coverages and why it matters on the group size. So if you are under 20 in your group size, your Medicare is primary. So when you do get that Part A card in the mail and you want to defer Part B, there is a possibility for penalties if you defer it past 8 months. So if you go longer than the 8-month period. So just know that, and Medicare's primary, group insurance would be secondary. If you are a group that's over 20, your group is primary. So when you get that Part A, if it's an HSA, you want to defer it if you would like all that. But if you don't, there's no penalty for deferring your Part B for a federal COBRA-sized group. That's over 20. And the group's primary. So that's why it matters when you're considering dropping coverages and what you're deferring or not deferring. You need to know what group size and what category you are in, because nobody wants to save a bunch of money but then pay a bunch of penalties. Kind of doesn't make sense. So with that, there's also COBRA that comes into place, and the length of time for COBRA. When it's a primary group, when it's over 20 and group is primary, that's federal COBRA, and that is 18 months of a continuation of COBRA if you were to, or a continuation of your group plan if you were to drop your group insurance for really any reason, to go on Medicare, to retire, anything. If it is under 20, it's mini COBRA, which is only 9 months. So it's much shorter amount of time. And employers can charge up to 5% for admin fees and 2% for federal COBRA. So again, any questions, just let me know. primary, secondary, COBRA, all those things are quite complicated. So I understand if nobody got anything that I just said. I have flyers available in the resources or the handouts, and you can always just call me or email me, and I'm happy to send you whatever you need. The next one is kind of to continue on COBRA a little bit and the options for your spouse. So say my husband is, or I'm working and my husband does not work and he's at home and I'm going to retire and he's on my group plan. So what options do we have? We have continuation of benefits, which is COBRA. My spouse is eligible for those. Any person that is currently enrolled on your plan for your group coverage is eligible for these COBRA benefits. It gives you a qualifying event for COBRA, gives you a qualifying event for Penny, where you could get subsidies since you're no longer working, depending on your income. And those are really kind of the options. But again, if you're not sure, give me a call. Let's run it by me, and I can go over, kind of what options you have to move forward with. Can they use Social Security for Medicare? This is Christy's portion. See ya.
Tag
So,
team.
yeah. Yes, you can. People are eligible for Medicare, obviously. Same thing as COBRA and Penny. It gives you a special election period to enroll into Medicare. The question is the spouse thing, because that can get tricky. So if you are the worker, so I'm the worker, and my spouse is younger than me, and I turn 65 and come off the group. Obviously, my spouse isn't 65 yet, so they don't get Medicare. So they only have the COBRA and Penny options. If they're older than me, say I have to be at least 62 years old, but my spouse that is not working is 65. So technically they would be eligible for Medicare because they're 65. However, they're not working. So they've never contributed to all the things that they needed to, Social Security, to get premium-free Medicare. So this is where the spouse that's not working can actually use the working spouse's Social Security benefit and get premium-free Medicare for A. They'll just have to pay for B, which everybody pays for B. So that's just something a lot of people don't know about. So I wanted to make sure you were aware.
Thank Christy. That was when we were doing our walkthrough the other day. This was a gem of knowledge that Christy dropped on me that I wasn't aware of. But this is a really powerful slide for me, and it should be for everyone on the call, because this is a great way to get in the door with groups. If you're a group health agent, you're used to looking at those group censuses. As soon as you determine that there's a Medicare qualified and eligible on that census, that should be a red flag. I can give you a real life example of something, how this slide played into my everyday life. We had a client we were working with, a group that got referred to us, and they had 10 employees, 2 of which were over the age of 65. One of those 65-year-old employees had a spouse that was only 59. Well, come to find out, once we're consulting with the group and really getting to know what their needs and wants and pain points are, we determined that employee was actually only working because he needed health insurance for his spouse. He didn't even want to be working anymore. They didn't need the money. They needed the benefits. So that employee was paying well over $600 a month in premium. The employer was paying over $800 a month in premium. The plan was about $1,400 a month in total premium just for him, not even including his spouse. So what we were able to do is say, hey, look, these group health insurance rates are crazy and they're going up every year. But if we're able to educate your employee on the benefits and the pros and cons of the Medicare versus the group plan, we were able to show that employee that we could save him well over $10,000 a year and still get his wife a health insurance plan. Because when we moved him to Medicare, his wife was no longer eligible to be on that group health plan as a spouse, right? And she didn't work full time, so she didn't have benefits available through her employer. So that gave her a qualifying event to then go to Penny and collect a huge subsidy on Penny, where she's still getting, the same level of services with her health plan on a Penny plan versus the group health plan, but paying a fraction of the cost. And now that employee is going to Medicare, where he's saving out-of-pocket costs and huge premium. And the employer is ecstatic because he just moved 2 employees and a dependent from his group health plan to Medicare, and they were extremely happy about it. So that's a real life example of a win-win-win. And I'm just coming across it more and more, where you have these employees that are Medicare eligible, 65 or older, and they have spouses that aren't, and they're just working a couple more years longer than they might want to, because they need a solution for their spouse. My parents were in the same situation. My dad is 8 years older than my mom. You'd probably be upset if I told everyone this, but he's 8 years older. And so if you ask them, he probably worked a year longer than he really wanted to, just because they were trying to determine what they would do for the next 8 years for my mom, for her health insurance, because she wasn't Medicare eligible and she was self-employed. So she doesn't have insurance through her employer. So yeah, powerful slide here, Christy. Thank you.
Of course. Well, and I think another great thing to mention is too that typically the employer, the owner of the business, is 65 plus, and they don't know how much they're paying for their own health insurance that they could be saving on a Medicare plan. So I think that's always funny. Okay, so let's end with some marketing ideas. So, this shouldn't be out of the box too much thinking for anybody, but a huge thing you always want to be thinking about is referring business back and forth, right? How can you help your client get more clients, and how can your client help you get more clients? Scratch each other's back. Always have the conversation of how to help each other grow one another's businesses. Create that referral source, because everything in life and in business is relationships, and it is word of mouth, and it is in having healthy relationships with everybody you do business with, because somehow the world always seems really small and we all have connections, right? So if you are the Medicare agent and you don't do group health, obviously go into places of employment and offer to do Medicare presentations to educate those employees about Medicare and how it would save them money to come off. Because I think there's always just fear surrounding Medicare because they don't understand it. It is something different for them. They've never experienced Medicare before. They have a lot of questions. So if they have somebody to guide them off of the group, they're more likely to do so. If you are a group health agent and you work with the group, offer to do the same thing, to go in and do Medicare presentations, or bring a Medicare agent in that you can partner with to have them do Medicare presentations. Offer to do a customer educational meeting. So if you work with a diner and they have a back room, offer to put something on their bulletin board. Make sure that you're, when you're going in and you're having, maybe it's an annual checkup with your group health relationship, that you're looking around at opportunities to make sure you're co-marketing or you're matching their vibe with the business. So if they have a bulletin board, you better be on that bulletin board. If it's a pizza shop and they have all the kids from the high school teams all over the wall and all businesses all over the wall, make sure your business is up there on that wall. If they're handing out anything for free, make sure that your logo is on that item. If it's a bar and they're using coasters that are toss away, why is it not your coaster? If it's a pizza shop and they're using paper cups, why is it not your logo on that paper cup? It's not going to cost you a lot of money to buy paper cups for a pizza shop. So it's just, making sure that you're front and center of everybody that you do business with and touching every single one of their customers and clients. Okay. I mentioned signage at the brick and mortar, and that's more than even group, your relationships with your group. If you have a little town, like here we have Linglestown, and it's a little circle and there's little shops that people walk up and down all the time, especially on the weekends. Why not get something on one or two of those windows? I mean, they have beautiful sight line to the road. Everybody's driving by. It's walkability. So if you have a cute little town like that and you have relationships with the people and those business owners, make sure you're getting your information up and out there for them all to see. So if anybody wants to talk more about marketing, I'm happy to do so. As you can see, I'm very passionate about it, and my ideas are always grand, and we have to like wheel them back in a little bit. But yeah, last we have. Go ahead, Thomas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that referral bullet point, Christy. You know, whether that's referring the business to URL or another group health agent or a Medicare specialist, you know, you're providing tremendous value, and that's a differentiator nowadays. It shows on this, you know, on the attendees on here that there's a lot of group health agents that don't specialize or refer out Medicare currently. And if you start doing that, that is a huge way to differentiate yourself. If you're playing in the large group space, you know, in the large market, you know, you're going to come across censuses that have quite a bit of Medicare eligible individuals. And that's opportunity just being missed out on if you're not at least having that conversation with the employer or partnering with someone that can have that conversation with the employer. Outside of generating new revenue for your agency, which is also huge. Anyone that wants to get into group health, I tell them they need to get into Medicare too. But outside of the revenue, I mean, you're creating tremendous value with your clients and that referral relationship. If you don't want to be specializing in those products in-house, you know, obviously we can, you know, you can outsource that to URL. We can be your partner there, but there's other agents, to Christy's point, out there that can help you with that. And if you're not taking advantage of it, you're missing out on tremendous opportunity.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm just answering some questions over here on the side. Okay. So we do have our Medicare Connections Conference already set this year. It is for August 24th, which is a Thursday at the Hershey Lodge. We'll have a bunch of our carrier partners there. It's not just a Medicare conference anymore. We usually do have Penny there. Social Security is usually there. And all of our carriers, as you know, do group health. They do the ACA. They do the Medicare. So really, you can ask any questions about any line of health insurance business that you'd like to. And not just health insurance. We do have some life and annuity carriers and some marketing and lead vendors that are going to be there as well. So I hope you can join us. Save the date now, and we look forward to seeing you there. All right, and if you have any questions, you can contact Thomas, Elise, or I here at URL, and I'll see you at our next webinar, which I think is next week. And if you're following along, we have Aetna ancillary products being discussed next week. And if you've missed any of our webinars before, you can go back on our training calendar and rewatch them at your convenience on demand. They're all recorded as well as this one is. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.